Quest number 115, Eagle's Peak. We speak with Charlie in the Ardoyan Zoo. He says they're waiting on a delivery of a northern ferret, but they haven't heard from their huntsman, Nicholas, for some time. He asks us to look for him west of the Gnome Stronghold, where the ferrets are known to be. We go to the Piscator's hunter area and find a campsite with a fire still going, but nobody around but these ferrets. We look through some books and find a book with a metal feather between its pages. The book details a bunch of species of birds as well as giant eagles. Little is known about them except for a folk tale about a bandit who used an eagle's nest as a hideout atop Eagle's Peak, the mountain nearby. We climb up the mountain and find an outcrop with a feather icon on top of it. We insert the metal feather and it opens. Inside we find a large cave and a journal belonging to Arthur Artemis.
We're all set for the raid on the Gnome Stronghold tomorrow. They must have had something good in a place that well defended. We'll sneak in over the West River while the gnomes are watching some big gnome bowl match, whatever that is. This time, Armin won't be bringing his pet gibbet. That thing caused nothing but trouble last time. The start to the so-called gnome bowl match appears to have been delayed. Some sort of rubbish about bad light. Looks like we're stuck waiting here for now. I'm going to kill Armin. He assured me his pet gibbet was tied up safely. We were lucky to escape with our lives, especially Davy, who got his foot caught in a rabbit hole whilst running away. Those long-eared pests seem to get everywhere. Currently hiding in a cave in the mountains. The only loot we managed to grab was a bag of refreshments from the Gnome Bowl pitch. There'd better be something good in there. I could eat a camel right now. Gnome food again today. Worms, however they're cooked, get boring after a while. Okay, we all saw the birds this time. Typically, Armin insists he can tame them. That guy is animal crazy. Gnomes seem to have stopped looking for us. Although with Berika's hidden entrance, this would be a good place to stash loot. Armin tried roping one of the eagles today. Got dragged halfway to Al-Kharid, apparently. Berika seems to have taken the hideout idea to heart, and is now designing an inner door. A mysterious old man turned up today. Not sure how he got in. Kept pestering us until eventually Davy spoke to him, at which point he offloaded a load of spinach rolls onto us and then left. Good grief, Berika's door design is contrived. Not sure I'll be able to open it myself. However, Armin still insists that we'll be able to use the eagles to get in and out. First attempt at using the eagles in a raid today. Gave me the fright of my life. Armin guided the eagle over our Ardoyan market. Managed to catch some loaves with a fishing net. We'll be eating well tonight, at least compared to recently. Berika has completed 2 of apparently 3 parts of the puzzle for his second door. I'm sure he'd be making quicker progress if Armin's Kebbit didn't keep getting in the way. That mysterious old man has turned up again. We don't have time for this, quite frankly, so we're going to ignore him. After all, what could be possible?
We find Nicholas trapped behind this chasm behind an eagle and her nest. We tell him Charlie sent us to find him, and we offer to help him. He says that we need to trick the eagles into thinking he's one of them by making a disguise. He tells us to speak to the fancy dress owner in Varrock, using feathers from the giant eagles. We teleport to Varrock and go to the fancy dress shop. He says he can make some costumes for me with 10 giant eagle feathers, yellow dye, and some swamp tar. We give him the materials and he makes 2 costumes. We return to the cave and put our costume on. Flawless. We talk again to Nicholas, who is understandably fooled by our clever disguise. He asks us to give him our second one. We head around the chasm and find a strange stone door with an eagle engraving on it. We look closely and see that it's supposed to fit 3 feathers into it, likely what Arthur's journal was describing. The metal feather we have doesn't fit any slot. We explore more of the cave and find some sort of labyrinth with tracks, statues on the tracks, stone gates, and levers, and birdseed? We take some birdseed and place it on the feeder nearby. The statues move! We move the statues around, pull levers, until eventually a pathway to a pedestal opens up, and we take the golden feather off of it. We head back out to the main area and find another room. We find a stone pedestal identical to the one with the golden feather on it, but this one's empty. We inspect it and find some large footprints nearby. We follow the tracks to an opening, and a massive kebbit jumps out. We club it over the head. It must have been the bandits. It drops a silver feather, which we take. We go to the last room, and a bronze feather is sitting there, but there's some sort of net around it. We try to take it, but the net pulls it up off the ground. We wind the winches in the four corners of the room, and the pedestal drops. We take the bronze feather. We take the feathers and insert them into the stone door and proceed through. Using our disguise, we sneak past the eagle and give Nicholas our other one. We head out and find him at the base camp. He shows us how to catch a ferret, and gives us one to give to Charlie. We deliver the ferret. Quest complete. Recap. In 2001, when Draenor Manor was first opened, there was a woman named Veronica whose fiancé went into the manor and didn't come back out. We went in to look for him to find out that Professor Odenstein accidentally turned him into a chicken and needed help changing him back. We got all the materials needed to repair his machine, and Ernest was turned back into a human. Then in 2005, on the far northeastern shore of Mauritania, we found a shrine of ghostly power called the Ectofuntus, watched over by an evil priest named Necrovarus. The Ectofuntus prevented anyone who died near it from moving on to the afterlife. We were able to force Necrovarus to allow people to pass on by using an enchantment on our Ghost Speak amulet made by an old crone to the west of Canifis, after reuniting her with her long-lost son. Quest number 116, Animal Magnetism. Returning to the inside of Draenor Manor for the first time since it came out in 2001, we pull on a wall sconce to open a secret room and find a woman inside named Ava. She asks us to help her spice up her home. She says she'll reward us if we can fix up her bed. She says all she needs is a couple undead chickens. We head to the farm near Port Phasmatis. We talk with Alice and ask for some of her chickens. She says we need to talk with her husband, but he's a ghost. We speak to him using our Ghost Speak amulet, and he explains that the Ectofuntus has turned all these animals into undead and kept him bound here after he died. He says he misses his wife, and he asks us to tell her he still loves her. He says he'll think about giving us some chickens if we do. We tell her, and she tells us to ask him where he's hiding their savings. He says it's in the bank. She says he needs his bank pass. We offer to give our Ghost Speak amulet, but she says last time she tried that, she could hear all the undead ghosts nearby, and it scared her so much that she won't try it again. We tell the farmer. He says nobody but a fool gives away their bank pin. We tell her, and offer to give her a modified Ghost Speak amulet. We head to the old crone who changed our Ghost Speak amulet last time. She takes one of the hairs of Alice that fell on our shoulder and creates a special amulet that will only work for her and the farmer. We give it to the farmer, and he and his wife are able to communicate once again. He catches some chickens for us, after some difficulties getting them in a bag, and cow leet killer, killing poor Bessie. Now he asks for 20 ecto tokens. We get 55 prayer real quick to get the tokens and buy the chickens. Nice. We head back to the manor and give them to Ava. She thanks us for the infinite feather source and offers to make some sort of device to make unending arrow flights for us using the second one. She says she'll also need a magnet and recommends we speak with the witch next door. We talk with Helda and she asks for 5 iron bars. She turns it into a magnet and tells us to hit it with a hammer in Remington Mine while facing north. We head there and do as she told us, and we give the magnet to Ava. She says she'll give it to the chicken to attract iron and steel, as well as arrows that we shoot. All we need now is a source of wood for arrow shafts, something that regenerates itself and is small enough for the chicken to use. She asks us to try and chop one of the living trees around the manor. We do, but the axe bounces right off. We tell Ava, and she says we have 2 options. 1, cut off our arms, reanimate them as undead, and then reattach them. Or 2, asking Turael how he chops them because Ava spotted him and his daughter inspecting the trees a while ago. We head to Berthorpe and speak with Turael. He says we need a blessed hatchet, which is a mithril hatchet with the edge replaced with holy silver. We give him a holy symbol and a mithril hatchet, and he trades them for his blessed hatchet. We use it to chop an undead twig and give it to Ava. She says the last thing we need is a container. She says she has a bunch of research notes on the subject, but can't quite decipher them. She hands them to us. We throw away most of them, leaving the 3 important ones, showing how to arrange all the items. We make the container with buttons and leather and give it to Ava, then she rewards us with Ava's Accumulator. Quest complete. Nice. Quick recap. Back in 2001, we rescued the Prince of Al-Kharid from a woman named Lady Kelly. We did a bit more than that and found out some stuff about Lady Kelly, but that's a sequence break, so we're gonna ignore that for now. Then in 2005, we were hypnotized by Amaskut the Devourer, and made to steal an embalmed organ from the deceased High Priest of Iclaran. This caused the town to become cursed and plagued. We helped the current High Priest undo the damage we caused, and learned that the spell that the Devourer casted was ended by divine intervention from Iclarin himself. Quest number 117, Contact. We return to Sophonim and speak with the High Priest. They're still at odds with the Devourer trying to save Clinter, but they have another problem. We know the plagues aren't contagious, but it needs to be proven to Minifos before the quarantine will be lifted. We offer to help and ask him to explain what they've tried so far. He says he met with Coenus, a head guardsman in Minifos. He wouldn't let them set foot on the bridge, even opening fire on them and laughing as they ran. We ask as to why they don't just open their own gates and leave Minifos alone. He says that a large amount of people from Sophonim are still within Minifos, and they need to be informed that they can return. We ask if there's any way into Minifos from below. He tells us of the sect of Scabarus, a worshipping group of a lesser deity named Scabarus. He tells us that the ruler of the pantheon, Tumekin, dreamt for 4 days and 4 nights. On each day he dreamt, a lesser god was born. On the final day, his loneliness took a toll on his dreams, and the isolation manifested as the god, Scabarus. Legend has it, Scabarus' followers created great subterranean passages. There's an altar to Scabarus in the Temple of the Lesser Gods. He tells us we should speak to Jex, the temple's caretaker. We find him and ask him about the temple. He tells us it's recently fallen into disrepair because a bunch of huge scarabs burst from the cellars, destroying the temple and the bank underneath it. We offer to investigate, but he says it's incredibly dangerous and people have already died trying. We run through a maze, running past humanoid scarab-like creatures, avoiding traps, and eventually, we find ourselves in a cavern and run down it passing a bunch of corpses until we find a fresh corpse. He had a scroll addressed to Caliph. It says his mission was to contact an agent inside Minifos. They were to use the tunnels beneath the Temple of the Lesser Gods, and to beware of the traps and the natives. And it's signed for by somebody named Oz. Across a chasm is a woman wearing a disguise. She says she's waiting for Caliph. We tell her he's dead. She cries out and curses Osman, the spy master of Al-Kharid. She said she hardly knew Caliph, but he was supposed to be her ticket out of Minifos. We tell her we need to tell the Sophonites in Minifos that they can come home, and in return, we will talk to Osman for her. She says if we bring Osman here, then she'll tell the Sophonites whatever we want. We head to Al-Kharid and tell Osman the situation. He says he won't go, as if the Minophites capture him, he'd be lynched. There's significant tension between Al-Kharid and Minifos due to wars over the last few centuries. He's maintained peace, and had to do some very bad things to do so. We tell him he owes us for rescuing Prince Ali. He snubs that and says we were already rewarded. We tell him it will help drive a wedge between Minifos and Sophonim. This convinces him, and he says he'll meet us there shortly. We find him outside the gate, and he says he'll go find her. He tells us to wait here for him. We wait for 2 hours, and he's nowhere to be found. We head down into the dungeon and return to where we found Caliph, and see Osman talking to Mysa. All of a sudden, the cave starts to shake. Osman tells Mysa to run, and she does, and a swarm of scarabs appears, followed by another, and then they form into a giant beetle, attacking Osman. We rush down and attack the beetle. As the fight goes on, multiple Locust Riders appear. We kill them all, and Osman appears. He tells us we should claim Caliph's dagger, the object that was lodged in the beetle's chitin. We take it, then head out of the maze and return to the High Priest. He thanks us for getting word to the Sophonites and rewards us with a combat lamp. Quest complete. Also, the Bank of Sophonim has been repaired, so we can bank here now. Recap. In 2004, we found a zealot outside of a mining cave. He told us he was looking for a legendary artifact to fight the undead. We stole his key and entered the haunted mine nearby, solving puzzles to enter deeper into the mines and fighting the spirit of an ancient Zamorakian guardian named Treyas Daith. We found an outcrop of crystals and cut a piece off to create the legendary Salve amulet. The first mini-quest in over a year, Lair of Tarn Razorlore. We head back into the abandoned mine and go down a newly dug tunnel. We find ourselves in a huge maze full of traps and the undead. We run through part of it and find a man named Adovikar at the end of a corridor. He says he works for the Bank of RuneScape. They're investigating opening a chain of traveling banks, but it requires a payment of 100 gold each time we use it. We move on past him, avoiding traps and running through the undead. We come upon a room of pillars and we have to jump across to proceed. We try, but an unseen log trap knocks us down. We make our way back to it and spot a button nearby. We hop to it and press it, disarming the log. We press on, going through walled push traps and jumping once again on pillars, this time while being attacked by magic skeletons. Eventually, we find ourselves in front of a man who does not seem happy we're here. He animates 2 nearby statues and then transforms into some mutated, hulking abomination. They all attack us and we fight back. After killing the terror dogs, the man animates armor. We get a good hit on him, and he falls to the ground but says we can't kill him that easily, and his ghost attacks us. We put down the armor, and then the ghost. The room is quiet, save for the terror dogs behind the bars nearby. We proceed onwards and find the place where this man was living. We find his diary. As we do, the cells open. Mini quest complete. Reading through it, Tarn came across a book on necromancy, specifically to be used on great beasts. He hopes to use it to find secrets about skeletal wyverns. He studied it for over a month. It's the most powerful spell he's ever seen, able to reanimate long-dead skeletons of huge creatures, but no way to control them. The spell references some kind of amulet that makes undead tremble before the wearer. He hopes to acquire the amulet to overpower Lord Draken. He found a quote in a history book. And so our mighty ruler ordered the mines to be sealed forever, and all those who slaved in the mines to be slain. Only by doing this could we seal away the thread of the accursed shard for all time. We heard something similar when talking to the zealot of Saradomin outside the mines. This confirms Tarn was seeking the salve amulet. A couple days later he found a map of the mines and he set out to explore them the next day. He seems to be a man of influence as he has servants accompanying him. Some of them died in the swamp and he resurrected them as thralls. It took them 5 days to reach the mines, and all the humans he had under him died and were raised as undead. He spoke with the zealot and tricked him into revealing how to enter the mines. He found the spirit of Traius Daith, but instead of fighting him, he dug into the cave and found an area that was constructed before he got there with strangely ornate masonry. He decided to use this as a base. He believes that this used to be a fortification against desert invaders from the west, or maybe even a castle used by a vampire lord a long time ago. Now he's just waiting for one of his undead minions to bring back a piece of the salve crystal. He has just finished enchanting his diary to enhance the powers of the salve amulet once he gets one made. We use the book on our salve amulet, enhancing its abilities further. Quest number 118, Cold War. Back in Ardoyan Zoo, we speak with Larry outside the penguin enclosure. He seems a bit unhinged. He asks us what we know about penguins. We say pretty much nothing, and he asks if we'd like to learn during his research project on their social habitats. He says he needs our help to build a shelter to hide from view. He explains that he was a zookeeper and he's on leave to research penguins in their native habitat. He tells us to get some materials to build a bird hide. He tells us to bring them to the shore near Releka, and we find him next to a small boat, and we row to a giant iceberg full of penguins. We construct the hide and then bury it in the snow. We go inside and observe 2 penguins dancing to each other. Flap. Spin. Wave. Larry thinks they're patrolling. He thinks the dancing is a salute. He says we need to infiltrate them. We row off the iceberg and ask how he plans on infiltrating. He says we can make a clockwork penguin suit that he can shrink us into so we can control it from the inside. He hands us a book detailing how to make the suit. We ask why he doesn't make it. He says he can't because he's homeless since he got fired. Apparently he's too obsessed with penguins to work. We go home and make a clockwork, then construct the penguin suit with it. We give it to Larry and we go back to the iceberg. The hide was destroyed. Also, all the nearby penguins are gone. With no penguins, we can't test the suit. We come up with the idea to try it on the ones in the zoo. He teleports us back, and we ask him how he even knows a shrinking spell. He says a wandering old man taught him how after he rescued Larry from an avalanche. We head into the enclosure and talk to a penguin. Squack, quack, quackity, squack, squeak. It responds in plain English. It says that operatives must not speak without the proper greeting. We copy the dance the penguins we observed earlier did. Flap, spin, wave. It calls us comrade and asks if we've made progress with the main directive. We tell him it was easy. It's shocked and asked how it was easy to learn how to fly? We tell it about being shot out of a cannon and flying in a hot air balloon. It tells us the whole reason they're in this cage is to learn the human secret to flight. Then he gives us a mission report and asks us to check on the operatives in Lumbridge. We tell Larry about all that, who is so relieved to be justified in his paranoia. He tells us to meet him in Lumbridge. Before meeting Larry, we steal a cowbell from the farm nearby. We'll need it later. We find Larry in Farmer Fred's sheep pen. He shrinks us again, and we talk to the sheep, first by doing the secret greeting. They tell us we're going to blow their cover, and they won't talk to us without the secret phrase. We tell Larry, and he says we should try and get it from the zoo penguin. He teleports us back and stuffs us into the suit, then we ask the penguin for the phrase. He says that Pescaling Pax, the Pescalian's son, who is head of R&D, came up with the phrase. He mentions that the penguins live in the great city of Palingrad, however the Pescalian had banished all of them until they finished their research. Since we're wearing the Ring of Karos, he tells us the phrase. It's, "Do not trust the walrus." We head back to Lumbridge and tell them the passphrase. We ask for a status update, and they tell us they think the farmer is an agent for the other side, trying to have them assassinated because adventurers are constantly trying to shear them. They want us to investigate him. We agree to, if they tell us where the outpost is. We tell Fred to stop messing with the penguins. Having penguin operatives assassinated will get him in trouble. We accuse him of working with the squirrels. We go back to the penguins and tell them that the farmer is harmless, but the sheep are cunning and need to be watched. They give us the report and tell us their outpost is on the iceberg. The entrance is hidden under an avalanche. They say the password to it is cabbage. We tell Larry about it and he takes us back to the iceberg. We find the avalanche but can't find out how to get in. We see a penguin with a briefcase nearby and greet him and tell him the password, cabbage. It asks us for an ID. We talk to the other penguin and it asks if we're interested in its wares. He sells us an ID card and a mission report in exchange for some swamp tar and feathers. We show the penguin with the briefcase the ID and he shows us how to enter the avalanche. He tells us to enter the first room on the left. We do, and we speak to this penguin. We tell it we're Agent Peach. We debrief and provide all of the information we've gathered so far. It says all we need to do now is complete a physical, specifically an agility course. We head out to the course and see penguins exercising. There's 3 penguins trying to fly exactly like we described we flew. We complete our physical and get free roam around the outpost. We leave and report back to Larry. He bets there's a secret room deep in the glacier where he thinks they're making war plans. He believes they're trying to take over the world. We head back in and talk to these penguins, named Ping and Pong. Ping says only the man can go into the war room. They say they're bards without instruments. We point out all the instruments in this very room, but they say they can't play them without thumbs. They were researching, though, and found out about bongos, but they need a second instrument as well. We recommend cowbell. They asked us to get bongos and a cowbell for him. We return to Larry, and he tells us we can make bongos with a mahogany plank and some leather. We make them with our bare hands and then give them to Ping and Pong. They perform a song about this iceberg and a monster they found and sealed away on it. The door guard comes in and yells at Ping and Pong for being loud, and we sneak by and open the door ourselves into the war room. We find Pescaline Pax planning, and an anti-magic field drops the shrinking spell. We're caught. They take our penguin suit to study it and throw us to the Ice Lords. They're terrifying 4-armed yetis. Oh, well. We sneak out through a fissure in the wall and tell Larry what happened. He believes we have plenty of time to prepare because it's not like they had a breakthrough in their research. We see a giant mechanized penguin. And complete our quest. Level 60 agility. Quest number 119, the Fremennik Isles. On the northern dock in Releka, we find Mord and Maria Gunnars. Mord asks for us by name, and he says he comes from an island to the north named Jatizo, and Maria, his wife, is from Neitiznot. Apparently, the king of Jatizo requests to speak with us. We ask Mord to tell us the history of Jatizo. 4 generations ago, there was a mighty king loved by all who had 4 sons. The 2 youngest sons were bitter enemies named Jatizo and Neitiznot. One day, they had a battle over their inheritance. After a day of fighting, the king asked who claimed the prize. Jatizo said he did, but his brother said, "No, it's not." The two bickered saying, "Ja tis so," and "Nay, it's not," for the remainder of the day. The next day, the king banished them until they had conquered lands of their own. They sailed in opposite directions of each other, only to claim lands that may as well be the same island. They bickered once again, and their quarrel is still going to this day, generations later. He says recently a troll army has seized the northern part of the islands, and the two villages have agreed to a truce until the trolls are dealt with. We ask him to tell us about the king, Gjuki Servat IV. He says he's short-tempered and arrogant, and doesn't care about anything besides outdoing the leader of Neitiznot. He ferries us to Jatizo, and we enter the fort and speak with the king. He's a bit rude, but his cat seems nice, and demands fish. The king asks us to give his cat some fish. We feed the cat a piece of tuna, and the king tells us that Neitiznot has been getting an increase in trade ships coming in. Our conversation is interrupted by traders from Keldagrim, but Jatizo isn't prepared. The advisor says they're missing 6 mithril ore. We give them the ore, and they pay us 5,000 gold. Back to the original conversation, the king believes the burgher of Neitiznot is plotting against him. The reason we're here is because the king has heard of our exploits as a bard in Releka. He needs a fool. He says he has sent his spymaster to entertain the burgher and get information. Apparently the burgher likes to drink, and him and his guards have loose lips. Yesterday, though, the spymaster had an accident and he can't continue. He wants us to continue where he left off. Before we go, he tells us to take the outfit from the chest behind his throne. It's a jester's outfit. We go back to Releka, and then we talk with Maria about Burger Manus Burogar. She says he used to be arrogant like the king, but after the trolls invaded, he lost his wife and his youngest son. Since then, he's been much more soft and considerate. She tells us in Neitiznot, this place looks nicer. We meet Slug Himlingson, and he tells us we're going to act as a traveling jester for the burgher to get information. We head into the burgher's hall, and he hires us on the spot. We perform for him and listen to the guards talking about training militia and providing armor, as well as repairing the bridges. We debrief with Slug, and he rewards us with 2.5k. He says next we should befriend the burgher and try to get close to him. Once the bridges are repaired, we're to report back. We take off the jester's outfit and we talk with the burgher again, this time introducing ourselves properly. He says he's been asking for an audience with us for a while. He needs someone courageous and valiant. We're up for the task, and he asks us to prove loyalty by performing some duties first. Task number 1 is to help some engineers with building, then to help repair the bridges. They ask for 8 ropes. We just so happen to have 8 ropes with us, and the burgher thinks we may be some sort of witch. We lie and say we're a professional rope trader. They take it and pay us 1k. Next, they ask for 8 Arctic pine logs split in 2. We head outside the town and chop 8 logs, and go to the stump across the bridge and split them all in 2. We return to the hall, and they tell us how to rebuild the bridges. We repair them both, and return once again. They tell us they plan on assaulting the troll caves. Apparently, the trolls have always been here, and they're usually cold before they get too out of hand. However, since Neitiznot has been preoccupied with fighting off Jatizo, they've grown too large in number, and an assault has to happen before both islands are overwhelmed. He says we need to defeat the Troll King. Modest Beauregard asks us to lead the charge. We graciously accept, and he says next, King Servat may try and stop them because he'll misinterpret the assault on the trolls as an assault on Jatizo. We return to the king and tell him what we've learned. But before we can get past telling him about the bridges, he declares that they need to pay for an army to defend from Neitiznot's attack. However, his advisor tells him they're out of money. The king's solution is to raise taxes. He comes up with a window tax and appoints us as royal tax collector. The advisor tells us to tax each citizen 1k per window. We strangle 24k out of the citizens and return to the king, but the advisor says it's still not enough. Next, the king comes up with a beard tax. We collect another 5k. The advisor says that's enough. Next, the king asks us to continue our espionage to find out who's been helping Neitiznot. We return to Burger Manus as a jester and perform once again while listening to their conversation. They talk about us, then talk about the assaults that they're planning for tomorrow morning. We tell Slug about all of that and return to the king. He locks the doors and interrogates us. We tell him what's truly going on, but he refuses to listen. We explode on him, calling him a paranoid fool, and he threatens to behead us. We tell him to try it. Instead, he takes us as Manus trying to take glory for killing the Troll King. He says at dawn, they will march their armies to kill the Troll King. We tell him they should instead join with Neitiznot in the assault. He brushes it off and says if Neitiznot interferes with their attack, it will be considered an act of war. We take the decree and deliver it to Burger Manus. Manus Beauregard says we're to ignore the threats of the king and tells us to complete their rites so we can lead the raiding party. We must equip ourselves with the tools of a Fremennik warrior. We need to make traditional armor and a shield. The armor is cured yak hide. We kill some yaks and have Thakred cure the hides, then we create the armor. Next, we need to make a round shield out of Arctic pine. We take some logs and a rope to the log again and create the shield. We're ready. We swear to uphold the virtues of courage and honor, and we're appointed the champion of Neitiznot. And we are accepted into the Neitiznot clan from here on. We're now to lead the charge into the Troll Caves on the northernmost part of the island. Our mission is to kill the Troll King and bring its head back here. We head past the ice trolls and find a cave with the corpse of a Neitiznot militant, and realize that's where they entered. We decide to go in across to the east to avoid them. We find the forward party, and they report we need to kill 10 ice trolls in order to proceed to the king. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We rush past the remaining trolls and jump across the broken bridge. We use the Dragon Battle Axe special attack to rage and land a devastating blow on the Troll King. He starts pushing us back with his massive weight, but we land another blow, felling it. We take its head and run past the battle, returning to Neitiznot and giving the trophy to Burgermodus Burrogar. He rewards us with his crown, the Helm of Neitiznot. Quest complete, and level 71 strength. Nice. Hail, champions of Neitiznot, and thanks for watching. Leave a like if you liked the video, it helps the channel grow. I've got a new plan for things we do in the half episodes to make them a bit more interesting and provide them with more substance, so subscribe not to miss 19.5. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.